follow the stats and the numbers, studies will show that there has been a great return to the local church. Obviously, we are a couple years out of the global pandemic that was the coronavirus, and we were not able to gather and assemble as we normally used to. But you follow the numbers, people are starting to desire the Lord. People are desiring the community and the fellowship that comes with the local church. And so tonight we'll be talking about the local church being a community beacon. You follow, especially in the Black church, the civil rights movement. The church was the epicenter of all things tied to the community. And our goal tonight, our goal as ministers, pastors, clergymen, church admin, we want to bring the church back to where it belongs, at the center, in the heart of the community. Got a good friend on tonight, pastor to the Rose City Community Church of Christ. Been there for nearly 5 years, so he's got some skin in the game, very qualified to have this discussion with us. Pastor Andrew Braxter, blessed to have him. If you know him, to know him is to love him. We're excited about what he's going to bring tonight. Let's go ahead and hop into it. As people affectionately call you, Pastor B, what's good, man?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself, man?
I am good. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little tired. I've been running this week, but I am good. Real
Hey,
good.
that's good. That's good. If you're tired, that
Yeah.
means you're doing something. That means you're doing something.
Yes. 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 Doing a whole lot of stuff,
Yes,
but
sir.
we are good.
Good. Nevertheless, we're not going, well, as I told you before, it's really on you. This episode goes as long as you take it. So if you want to be a
Right.
long-winded preacher tonight, that's on you. If you want to give a
Tonight you
sermon that,
might not get the long-winded preacher. Tonight. uh,
good deal, good deal.
uh,
Well, nevertheless, man, we appreciate you making time for the show, making time for the viewers. And as we said in the intro, we're looking forward to what you bring to the show tonight. You ready to get into this, bro?
let's do it, man.
Bad. For you, obviously, we went to, for those who may not be familiar with us, you and I, we first met in college and undergrad at the Southwestern Christian College.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
yeah, 200 Bowser Circle. And
200 Bowser.
yes, sir.
Yes.
So
I
for
remember like it
you,
was yesterday.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
For you, all of us aspired as ministers. When you're young, you want the name, you want the notoriety, you want the fame. And if we just being straight up, you were one that was blessed to have the notoriety of the brotherhood, of the nation, before you were blessed with the local church. And so, how has that transition been from being, and I'm not saying this facetiously, but literally traveling the country to now God blessing you with nearly 5 years of being a part of and leading the local church? How's that transition been?
Man, I'll be honest with you. It has been a major transition, but
Mm-hmm.
one that I'm thankful for. Um, now, I just got back from Huntsville. Today is Thursday. I got back late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, to come back to come back to work, which is actually where I am right now, working on some things before we got on tonight, and I'll be working on a few things when we finish. But it's been major, because I was used to living out of a suitcase, used to being at every lectureship, every convention, as we would call it,
Mm-hmm.
um, traveling here, traveling there, um, almost what some would consider a household name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then now to being in a local work every week. One of the things that a lot of people probably wouldn't believe, I actually like staying at home now.
Mm-hmm.
I almost dread when I have to leave and go somewhere, to the point that I pack at the last minute. I know I've got to go, but I'm so anxious to get back home because of the
Mm-hmm.
work that's here.
Yeah.
And I think God did something for me intentionally as a younger guy, um, being been preaching now almost 26 years. I was able to get, dare I say, the all of the dreams and wants out of the way
Yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah.
traveling the world, traveling the country, to the point now it doesn't excite me too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's weird when people first meet me because they're like, "Oh, you've been here, you've been there. What was that like?" And I'm like, "I went there to preach and I came back home."
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so the excitement of being on the road, it doesn't excite me anymore. I realize it's an assignment to do.
Sure.
And when that assignment is finished, let's come on back home because there's more work to do.
Mm-hmm.
So my mindset has literally changed to let me go do what I need to do and let me come on back so I can bless my people some more.
Yeah, that's good.
Um,
That's good. That's good. That's great perspective, especially for those. And let's be honest, there are some who are in their 20s where we were, fresh out of high school, stepping into the collegiate scene, stepping into ministry, whether it be for music or, being that full-time minister or pastor, and they want what we aspire to have. And so hearing that from you is good perspectives given to them, because it's like, hey, don't be, it's not everything that is cut out to be, because
if
it's
I
ministry is
can,
bigger than that.
yes, if I can, you remember before I moved to Tulsa, I
Mm-hmm.
was on the road every week, multiple times throughout the week, trying literally to survive. And a lot of people don't know what it's like when you're living out of a suitcase
Mm-hmm.
for 5 out of the 7 days of the week. When you leave one city, you're headed to the next city. You're trying to remember where you are, where you're going. And not only that, you're trying to keep your body up because
Mm-hmm.
if you're sick, you can't miss a night. And then the people in the next city that you're going to are expecting you to be just as on fire as
Mm-hmm.
the city that you just left.
Right.
And there were so many days. I kid you not. We've talked about this privately. There were so many days that I was preaching the church happy and going back to the hotel and sitting in the dark
Mm-hmm.
because there was so much just weighing on me and having to be on the road. I'll never forget one week I think I was gone like 4 weeks back to back. And I was just happy to come home. I had another revival to do, but I was just happy to be back home in Memphis in my own bed
Yeah.
because one week um, I went to Jacksonville for a revival, left Jacksonville, flew to St. Petersburg, left St. Petersburg, came back home to Memphis for one night, unpacked my bags, repacked my bags so
Mm-hmm.
that I could go to Columbia, Tennessee for a wedding, and then down to Huntsville, Alabama for the Southeastern Lectureship, which is
Yeah.
actually where I was earlier this week.
Gotcha.
As I'm there, my mom calls me Sunday morning because my dad has been rushed to the hospital
Oh wow.
with a blockage in his kidneys.
Mm.
So I preached the lectureship that week, and I think I preached like 3 times that week there, and left after my last sermon and drove to Montgomery to check on my dad. Stayed with him for the weekend, and Sunday night I left to come back to Memphis because I had to start another revival in Memphis before I left again to go
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot. It's a lot of wear and tear on your body. It's a lot on your mind. It's a lot on everything.
Yeah.
So to transition from being gone all the time to now purposely staying home,
Right.
that's that's something else. Or
Sure.
I'll go real quick and come right back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's again great perspective. And anyone, man or woman, who aspires to be fluent in ministry like that, just be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you pray for, because it is very, very, very demanding.
You'll
I'm a
become a
numbers guy.
victim of an answered prayer.
Yeah, come on now.
Yeah.
Have to pause for the cause. I put her on earlier, but we always want to make sure we show love in the comments. One of your aunties. I'm Pam.
Hey,
Yeah.
Auntie,
Said good to have you on
Auntie.
tonight. So it's
Yeah.
been a while since we had you in the city, but spoiler for those who are members of the Virgin Street Church, Drew will be a part of our homecoming next year in June. So you're hearing it here
I'm
first.
coming back. I'm
Yeah,
coming back, and I can't wait.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a numbers guy, man. I'm a numbers guy. Last year statistics. There's some numbers before we hop in this episode just to make sure we're accurate on what we're doing. Last year's numbers. I said in the intro that if you do the research, there's been a return to the local church, and studies show from last year to now, overall churches saw a 13% growth in attendance. Um, Even more personal in-person attendance grew by 8%, and studies show that online attendance, online worship, if you will, decreased by 28%. So hearing those numbers, what do those numbers suggest to you when you talk about the importance of the local church?
It's a lot more important than what people think.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes because of the society that we live in,
Mm-hmm.
the local church has gotten a bad rap, but the local church is very needed and also very necessary.
Yeah.
Um, it For years, the local church was the hub of your community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually what I want our church to become, not just a place that gives away stuff, but actually a hub for the community, a, dare I say, community slash connection center. That's really what I want. And the growth that I have seen has not just been numerical growth, because I do believe that people are looking for an authentic place to come and worship. But also, I've seen consistent growth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just one person this week, but it's the same people coming every week looking for something and growing with something. People are really searching.
Mm-hmm.
People are searching for a good church, and they're searching for a good voice, a good, viable voice that will literally lead them back to God. Bro, I kid you not. I walked into a restaurant yesterday, and every time we go somewhere to eat, I'm always speaking to people, always teasing people. I get that from my daddy. If
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's ever been out with my dad, he does the same thing. And so I went to this restaurant yesterday, and there was a lady there eating, and I said, "Hey, let me have some of that." And she said, "Sure, you can have some." And then she eats it. And so, I'm teasing, like, how you gonna tell me I can have some and then you eat what I just asked for?
Yeah.
And the lady that's sitting with her, she says, "Aren't you a pastor?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." "Did you do a baby's funeral about a year ago?" Well, anybody that knows me knows I've done thousands of funerals.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So I said, give me a little bit more. And she starts describing the sermon that I preached
Mm.
at this baby's funeral.
Wow.
And I can't remember the exact baby, but it sounds like something that I would have done, because I do remember a baby where I talked about the numbers and the age that the baby was and the days that they were here. And the lady told me, she said, "Your sermon impacted my life so much, and it really made me start just looking at the days of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Where is your church? I need to come visit, because that really helped me." So there are people out here who are really searching for something. And I believe it is so important for us to help point them back to God, which, if I can go back to question number one,
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's so important for me to be at home on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
Even to the point where I'm cautious of bringing in other guys who are senior pastors or lead pastors, who are the main guy. I'm cautious about bringing them in on a Sunday, because I realize if my people need to hear me, certainly your people need to hear you.
Yep.
And they need to hear that consistent voice,
Mm-hmm.
that constant feeding. Yeah. But people are definitely searching. People are definitely searching. And they're going back and watching.
Yeah.
Even some churches with their online ministries have put timestamps on where, this song is, where this prayer is, where the sermon begins, where this point starts, where that point starts.
Mm-hmm.
And people are actually going back, watching. Not Frank Smith, but Dr. Frank Thomas, who is a professor at Christian Theological in Indianapolis, said that your sermon needs to be written for more than one hearing or for more than one sitting.
Yeah.
We don't just write a sermon for Sunday morning, but we're writing that sermon so that it can be listened to and lived through Monday through Saturday
Yeah,
when we leave the sanctuary.
yeah. No, that's good. When I look at those numbers too, from my vantage point, you have honest seekers. I think a previous episode I did last season with Vince Ford, a good friend of ours, he
Yeah.
mentioned then that the global pandemic that we went through has affected us traumatically, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally. I mean, from a holistic standpoint, we've been affected. And I think it shook us to our core, those of us who are believers, even those who aren't. Okay, I think I need to get my life in order. And we're seeing a return to the church for that. And you made a good point, especially with not only wanting to be present with the local church as far as mounting the sacred desk, but a lot of congregations have discontinued evening service for one reason or the other. And so there's just not a lot of opportunity where the senior minister, the senior pastor can afford to be out of the pulpit. And so, you know, especially coming from your vantage point, or even those who do travel, who are evangelists, we got to be very careful about the number of Sundays that we're out. I've gotten to the point, and maybe you're in the same situation, I've gotten to the point now with the health and growth of our congregation here in Tulsa, where, man, I don't want to miss anymore. I mean, there were times, and let's be honest, you know, as ministers, sometimes, you know, the local church is hard to preach to. And so you need to get away. But it's a good sign that when the man of God says, hey, you know, I actually want to be here, I don't want to miss. And we've gotten to that point here where, you know, when you see growth, not just on a Sunday, but when you see growth happen on a Wednesday, or when there's a fellowship opportunity on a Saturday, or benevolence, you know, when there's ministry taking place, it's like, man, this thing bleeds over, and I hate that I'm gonna be going, you know. So I think it's critical. And too, you know, when you have those first time guests come in, and we understand it's not all about one man or one woman, but let's be honest, we've all been there before. We were the lead guy. Who preaching Sunday? If it ain't pastor, if it ain't the lead guy, I'm gonna go somewhere else, you know. So if you're going too much, yeah, you might miss out on some stuff.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I was scheduled to be out the last Sunday in September,
Hmm.
and I was supposed to be in St. Petersburg. And I decided, well, they called me, I think like that Tuesday or Wednesday, and said that Hurricane Helene was getting ready to come through.
Hmm.
And they're like, so what do you want to do? I said, well, let's see, you know, what the weather says. And we'll play it by ear. But I was like, you know, I'm a non-essential part of your program, because
Yeah.
I was just coming in as a surprise guest. But I had told my secretary, um, and a couple of other members, that I was probably going to be out. Um, and so when I pull up that Sunday, um, and I get out the car, one of the ladies hollers out. She said, "Hey, I thought you wasn't gonna be here." But she was so excited that I was,
Hmm.
because they were gonna be mad because I was gonna be out the next week too. And so um, I told them, you know, hey, I had to stay home, and I was thankful because I wanted to be there. The sermon went over very well, and I missed a hurricane, so you know, I'm really glad
There you go.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's different. You know, people are excited when their pastor is there.
Hmm.
You know, they get excited. Not that whoever comes to fill in doesn't do a good job, but it's something about hearing
Yep.
your shepherd's voice.
Yep. 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 That's good. So as we mentioned, you are in Little Rock, Arkansas, and the reality
Hmm.
is, no two churches are the same. While we have our core foundational beliefs, but the methodology, all those things vary. The needs of each individual congregation is different. And so there are things that I've gathered here in Oklahoma that may be a little bit different from what you've gathered in Arkansas versus someone in Florida versus someone in New York versus someone in California, et cetera, et cetera. So from your nearly 5 years of pastoring in Little Rock, what are some concepts that you've gathered that you feel can be valuable for um, other church leaders, other members, other parishioners of congregations across the country, across the world?
One of the big things that I had to learn here was understand the culture that you're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas is different than any other place that I have lived. Um, it's very, very, um, I want to choose my words carefully.
Yeah, Doc,
But
it's
Arkansas,
more than one episode, Doc. People gonna watch it. We live.
yes, yes, yes. Gotta remember that. You can, and we're not editing this one like we did on the other one.
Correct.
But Little Rock was different. Um, um, and doing ministry here has definitely been different. It's a lot more traditional
Mm-hmm.
than what I was used to coming here, which is not a bad thing because each place has its own culture, and it's just making the adjustment. Though Little Rock is a traditional city, our church is not a traditional church.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the things that I've tried my best to do since being here is show the benefits of being biblical. Uh, and when you're being biblical, it doesn't matter when it comes to traditional, progressive, all that stuff. You just want to be biblical.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first things I said in my first year was that, I can take you being uncomfortable, but I can't take you being unbiblical.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we won't do. We'll always stick with the word. Whatever the word says, that's what we'll do. I also had to learn that even within this city, each church is so different, and it is okay to be yourself. Um, I also learned that the people here really do have a love for the word, um, which is a blessing to me.
Yep.
There have been a lot of major preaching voices to come through this area, and even still present here inside Churches of Christ and also outside of Churches of Christ. A lot of major preaching voices have come through, and that has actually influenced how the city receives preaching and preachers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a major respect for it, um, but also in our city, well, Little Rock and North Little Rock are two different cities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Little Rock actually has a black mayor who is also an assistant minister at one of the churches here. He's the youngest mayor, and he's a black mayor who's single.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's nothing to see him at one of the church activities that I've been to,
Yeah.
which then adds a different slant to how the government is run,
Yep.
which is definitely, definitely different. Um, but some of the things that I've learned since being here: do your work,
Mm-hmm.
do your work,
Yeah.
like not just do the work, but do your work, because I believe there is a space and there is a place for every type of work here, and they're all needed and they're all necessary. Um, Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we don't think that our ministry is necessary because it's not the next person's ministry.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, there is a need for every type of church.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Without us, and I hope I'm saying it the right way, without us beating up on anybody else's church.
Sure.
Like there's a need. There is a respect, and that's one thing that I've tried to teach our church. You can be respectful of whoever. You know, I enjoy very enthusiastic church. I like
Amen.
to have church.
Amen.
When I go to church, I want to feel like I've been to church.
Amen. That's a
Um,
great way to put it.
Amen. But there are some places I go that are not as lively as I like,
Mm-hmm.
but I can still appreciate my time there.
Mm-hmm.
And so Little Rock has really, really taught me that. And it's taught me, hey, do your work, do the work, um, and your work will show its worth.
Yep.
Um, that's real.
That's good. It's definitely appreciate. I know anyone can gather a lot from what you said. Um, especially the point about just being confident and being consistent in your work. I was talking with a good friend of ours, Jason Walker. Of course, he's now at the Renaissance Church with Dr.
I
Hayward.
saw him.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
so some conversations we had, and I spoke to the most previous episode of the show. We definitely live in a copycat society, and one thing that he and I talked about was like, hey, when you talk about growth and really further developing the local church, that starts with critiquing self based on self. It's good to have a pulse of what other churches, what other congregations, what other ministers and leaderships and admins are doing. But I think the most consistent and healthy growth is starting with critiquing yourself. I believe when you talk about the value of each congregation, I believe that you sell yourself short, the value of the local church short, by trying to compare the congregation that you're at, the work that you're at, the flock that you serve or that you're a part of, to another flock. Again, it's not about, I'm not saying don't get ideas, but there's something about critiquing self with, okay, hey, what are the standards that we have? What is the standard that God has set for us? And let's also be realistic with what of our abilities and what we're able to do. And then, of course, as we know, let God have the increase. But man, I think you really damage the potential of the congregation when you're too busy looking at other churches and what they're doing. That works for them. Let's focus on what works for us. Also focus on what we need and how are we best fit to meet that need, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. That is, man. I'll be honest with you. I even had to, not even from just a church perspective, but from a person perspective, even my likes and my preferences in comparison
Mm-hmm.
to what the culture of the church was.
Yeah,
Um, and I had to, whereas I'm always me, I'm still me. I had to learn, how do I serve in this space
sure.
in the most effective way? Because just because there's something that I like, there's something that I enjoy, I need to make sure that I need to make sure that my liberty, my likes, my liberties are not overpowering
Mm-hmm.
to the next, to where it's offensive
Sure.
because of what my likes are.
That's good.
And so when I open myself up to that, it's almost like God opened up another dimension within our church,
Mm-hmm.
because it was seen more as us working together rather than a me versus them type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really blessed us.
It's good. A lot of times, especially with us, um, we're in our 30s. When God placed us in these congregations, we were in our 20s. And one of the stigmatisms that comes with the younger minister and pastor is, oh, he's trying to be a dictator. He's trying to run the church the way he sees. And it's like, if you really knew us and understood us, it's almost like a parent, shepherding a congregation where our mindset is, yes, I have my preferences, I have my desires, but the prayer is, God, I want to make sure that what I desire or what I'm pushing forward is in alignment with what God desires.
Yeah,
Being a new father, having a young family, I get it even more where it becomes kind of like the angle of a parent or a father, because my job is to manage the family, right? My wife and I, me and Karen, we manage the family. As ministers, we're called to manage the flock. We're called to shepherd the flock. With that, we have to make sure that we are tending to the needs of the flock. And as you said, sometimes the needs of the flock, and majority of the time, have to be more important than our wants for the flock. And so I think an effective minister to the local church has to say, okay, hey, I have an idea of who I am as a person, but I think who I am as one who pastors a flock, I want to be a shepherd. I want to pastor the church based on what they need, not based on what I think they need, right? And that's humbling.
man, humbling is not even the word.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind blowing, because you think you're doing the right thing. You
Right.
think that you are, leading in the right way. And sometimes when you catch opposition because of that, it will actually make you question your ministry.
Mm,
And so you almost have to reevaluate some things. And um, I hate to say it this way, but almost allow it to happen,
mm,
um, but also be there to catch and correct as
yeah.
it's happening, um, which takes us swallowing our pride because I can't say I told you so.
Mm, yep.
I just have to be there to catch you and correct it so that we can keep moving forward.
Sure.
Um, because eventually it's almost
Uh,
yeah.
there you go. Froze for a minute. I said, let me switch up the angle and get you back online. There we go.
Here I
That's all.
is. Here I is.
There you go. That's also the pro and con of being live. I'm gonna give you a curveball. You asked for one, so there you go. You ask and you shall receive. So we
I did not,
we
but go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah we talked. I mean, the whole theme of this is um, the church being a part of the community, being a beacon, being a light. The Bible labels the church as a light. Revelation talks about it being a candlestick. When you look at the seven churches of Asia, right? Um, so we gave the numbers earlier that suggested that there is a return. There's a spiritual renaissance that's happening where people of all ages, all demographics, all ethnicities are, and if you even look deeper, a lot of millennials are coming back to the church, believe it or not. As critical as people have been of, oh, well, that younger generation, a lot of millennials are coming back to the fold as well. And so with them returning to the body, returning to the flock, my question is, how does the church return to its former glory? I know well, back in the day, but this is actually a good back in the day. Back in the day, the church was the epicenter of the community. From your vantage point in ministry, how can the church return to being that beacon and that light in the community as we once were? Because we're not that now. We'll just be honest. We're not what we used to be. I know, but I'm gonna take me
Why
off
you
camera.
gotta
Put it
give
all.
me the
Put
tough
it all
ones?
on you, Doc. There you go, Doc. It's all on you,
Put it
baby.
all on me.
Yes, sir.
Number one, the church has to realize it's not Walmart.
Hmm.
That's one of the biggest things. Um, the church is the connection center to God. It is that's and if you're gonna be the church, you have to do church well.
Hmm.
If you're gonna be the connection center to God, you have to connect people to God. And I think I have no issue with churches that have multiple different types of ministries that they're involved in. But that's not why people come to church. That's not why people come to the worship place. Like, I can get counseling from betterhelp.com.
Hmm.
I can get my groceries from the food bank. I
Hmm.
mean, but why do I need the church? I need the church to be connected back to God.
Hmm.
And I think that's where it has to start. I can't get God in my doctor's office. I can't get God in the grocery store. Those places were not designed to give me God.
Hmm.
And I have to get back to the place of doing what I'm good at: worship, word, witness.
Hmm.
Because many of our civil rights leaders, the reason why the church was the epicenter of the community during civil rights, like your pastors, your preachers, were also your civic leaders.
Hmm.
That's real.
Yeah.
Your Sunday school teachers were also your teachers at the school.
Hmm.
Like, your deacons were your coaches.
Yeah.
And so the church was literally a part of the community. Everybody went to the same church.
Hmm.
We all knew everybody, but we have normalized the insignificance of the church. because we feel like what the church offers now, I can get that from anywhere.
Mm.
And so I believe as we're going through this Renaissance period, we need authentic worship. We need accurate and authentic word. You know, we need active witnesses of how the church and really it's how God is working through the church, how that's impacting our lives and making us all the better.
Yep.
We're missing that piece, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like when I leave church, I ought to leave better.
Yeah.
You know, forget a chicken dinner. I need some prayer.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, that's one of the things that bothers me with the modern church. We show up for everything else that we think is work rather than worship.
Mm.
And even the story of Mary and Martha, when Jesus is at the home and Martha comes and says, Jesus, tell Mary to come and work with me. She's sitting down here at your feet and she done left me in the kitchen to serve.
Yeah.
And Jesus responds, she chose the better place. She chose the better part, which is at my feet. And we've gotten so busy with wanting to do the work that we have missed what is God really calling me to.
That's good.
Like, which is to be at his feet.
Yeah.
Because if I don't do anything else, I need to be at his feet.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get my food if I can get to his feet.
Yeah.
That's the story of the 5,000. Because they had followed him, he has compassion on them and says, I can't send them away hungry because they won't make it. That's the 4,000.
Yeah.
They can't make it. So because they've been following me, because they've been sitting at my feet, let me feed them.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew chapter 6, take no thought on what you shall eat, what you shall drink, what you shall wear. If he clothes the lilies of the field, if he takes care of the fowls of the air, certainly he'll take care of you.
I feel your help coming along, Doc. I feel your help.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But that's real.
Yes, sir.
But then he says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness and all these things. What are these things? What you shall eat, what you shall drink, what you shall wear, how you'll be covered. If you put the kingdom first, everything else falls in place. And if we can get people in the world to understand that today, that if I can get that foundation right, instead of building on the sand, if I can build on a solid foundation, the rest of my life will be intact.
That's word. On Christ the solid.
I'm sorry, man. I got happy.
All other ground.
All other ground. You can build your cathedrals great and small. Only what you do for Christ will last, though.
That's a word. That's a word. I knew you was good. That's why I threw you the curveball. I knew you gonna hit it. I knew you was gonna be able to
it took me a while.
You got it, man. You got it. And I'm sure all who are on, and even those who'll be on team replay will be blessed by this time that we shared. We have come to the end of the road, Doc. Man, we appreciate you hopping on, blessing us. As you mentioned, you were tired, but the Holy Spirit came through you and blessed you, blessed me, blessed our viewers on currently, again, and those on team replay. Final thoughts and words of encouragement for the people that's on with us, man.
Final thoughts, words of encouragement. As you seek to be a beacon in the community, just be a good person. Be a good Christian. Each week when we leave, before I give the benediction, I tell people, share your smile with someone. Share your love with someone. Be Jesus to someone. Tell someone you love them just because you do. No strings attached. But be good to people because you never know when they need it. And I promise, when we allow God to shine through us, it makes not only our community better, but it makes our entire world better.
Yeah.
And so I think, one of the things that we have to ask is, if everyone was like me, what would this world be like? And so, which is why I encourage our people each week to be good to folks. Be nice, take a moment, smile, just for the sake of doing it. Tell somebody you love them. Tell them a bunch of times. Just make it weird for them, all that stuff.
I got a brother, brother Kevin Gordon. That's his angle. He gonna tell you. If he don't tell you nothing else, he gonna tell you, I love you. He stop what he doing mid sentence. Hey, I love you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love you.
Yep.
That's it. But I think if we can do that, we'll revitalize the church
Hmm.
and we'll reach the world.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
Man, listen, man, again, you have blessed us, my brother. We are so appreciative for the time that you share with us, man. If you're on right now, we got a couple on. Let us know where you're watching from. I know where one of them's from because she's a part of Virgin Street. But if you're on now or even on the replay, let us know where you're watching from. We want to know where this ministry is reaching. Bro, we
Yeah.
appreciate you. We appreciate you
Thank
again,
you.
man. Blessing us, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, bro.
Indeed. Yes, sir. Get you some rest. Prayers to
We're
your
gonna do
father,
it.
man. Let your father know in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that there's a church praying for him, man. So let him know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you're on live with us now, it's a ministry. Like it, share it, do all the social media stuff, follow, do all this stuff. I gotta say, you already know what to do. Bless somebody else with the time that my good brother and I have shared. We look forward to what's coming up next week. Until the next episode, we'll see you then. God bless you. God keep you. Peace.